Well, good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? This is your friend Nick, coming to you again, not live, and I want to keep this as brief as I can. And I'm coming to you appealing to our. On the one hand, I'm appealing to us on a spiritual level, but I'm also appealing to us on a patriotic and justice level. Some may not really like what I have to say right now, and I have to say, if that's you, I am very sorry if you feel that way, but I do believe that we have to speak up for, and we have to make our choices. We have to pick our battles. I think the most important thing that we need to be fighting for as far as believers in Christ Jesus, and I realize not everybody watching is a believer in Christ, but for those of us who are, the most important thing we need to fight for is that we need to be fighting for the cause of those who are disadvantaged and hurting and so forth, but also fighting for letting others know that God really truly does love them in spite of whatever they've seen in their life, and that God is a God of a new day. And that's the most important cause I'm after. And what I'm about to say, my prayer is that it will not come across as a contradiction or a disrespect to ways that you who are watching have been hurt in your life. But second to being a believer, I'm a very patriotic American, and I believe, and I believe in education, but I believe in teaching and education. I believe in modifications to education. I believe in making changes as needed to education. I believe in equality in education. I'm the first proponent of equality, whether that's race, religion, etc. I believe nobody should be deprived of education because of any of those backgrounds. I think everyone is entitled to that, or I don't even like the word entitled, but everyone as an American, and that's a very important part of this too, should have a say in their education, and have a right to, as Americans with that citizenship included, should have a say in where they go to school, all those sorts of things. What I'm addressing right now is this whole big push for the concerns with racism that are very real in our country, and I know they are. I'm going to say it straight up. I know I'm white, but what many of you don't realize is that I'm also the son of an immigrant. And I'm one generation away from being, for that matter, I am mixed, because my father was born in a little island off the coast of Sicily. My mother was born in the United States. The island where my father was born, and this is by no way, shape, or form a disrespect to my father's background, but he was a country bumpkin, if you will. It was a fishing town. So he had a couple of things could be considered going against him. He was an immigrant to the United States. He didn't speak English, or very little. He was from a small fishing town. And then he was, an immigrant to Argentina. He didn't finish high school. So there's all kinds of things that went against my father, and could easily be viewed as, that was a disadvantage. My mother was born in the state of West Virginia, a very underfunded state, underprivileged state with a lot of problems, a lot of stereotypes about West Virginia, even though it's here in the United States. I'm saying that those things could easily be looked at as like disadvantages. Furthermore, there were people that at times viewed that perhaps my folks were not a match Everybody has an opinion about people coming together. And you know what? I've seen God make a great thing and a beautiful thing out of their lives and put them in places of leadership that other people might have easily said, you know what, you don't fit the bill. If anybody has, what I'm trying to say is, if anybody has a right to get offended, I do. I could easily say, you know what, you guys, people totally were bigoted toward my parents and had an attitude toward them. They have a story to tell about how they were mistreated, laughed at. My mother was mocked as a kid, because of her background being, religious and faith and all this, and people would laugh and scorn and all that kind of thing. So there is a history of things that people could easily look at and say, well, you know what? The Pinos have every reason to get up in arms and be offended. I realize I'm not, I still could be viewed as white, but, there were stereotypes placed on Italians for years, and they were called WOPs. I mean, for you Italians that are offended by that, I'm sorry, but whatever that even stands for, there were Italian ghettos in history. Ghetto was not necessarily a notorious place or a place of repute, with a good reputation, whether right or wrong. I'm saying that there are racist issues that I can go back in my history and say my family's been bigoted against because of their last name. There have been prejudices about, I've even watched good people that have, for whatever reason, they didn't always see my father's qualified for certain things. And then God, and I do believe it was God, opened doors for him to rise above that and be placed in leadership that human beings couldn't even argue with, because God had a hand in it. And I'm just saying, there was a choice that my parents and I could have made that says, you know what? We were mistreated. We were treated with racism or with discrimination or inequality, and treat that as like my chance to speak up and say, I've got a platform here, without trying to minimize what someone else is saying about a certain color of skin or whatever. I could say, Italian lives matter. West Virginians' lives matter. You know what? I could be upset and up in arms about senators and people that have reportedly, or even just by rumor, have kept the West Virginia in a box and said, you know what? Once poor, always poor. Uber, which I drive for, has reportedly not allowed Uber to get kick into gear in West Virginia. And have kept people squashed down. And it wasn't Uber saying no, it was the state. Economy. There are different political people that could be looked at and say, you know what? They kept West Virginia in the box, kept them in their place. And the stereotypes of barefoot and